Good afternoon, Zimbabwe, and welcome to the election update. My name is Jeffrey Murimbechi, and if you're just joining us, we have been giving you a live update since the morning with Farai Gwaze and Lucy Ngosolo, who is in studio with me. And we also want to welcome the rest of the world that are joining us from our digital platforms, ZBC News Online, that is on our Facebook page, where we're streaming live. We have been streaming, including the rest of our usual news bulletins. And remember, we are the African Voice, and the hashtag today is Zimbabwe Decides 2023. Lucy, quite a lot has happened since the morning. Predominantly, a lot of the polling stations across the country managed to start off as scheduled at 7 a.m. in the morning, with the exception of some parts of Harare and Bulawayo.
Yes, ndizvo zviri kuitika muri yeZimbabwe kuti aiwa tabva mangwanani tichingokupakurirai zviri kuitika munzvimbo dzakatsaukana. Takatarisa kuti nhasi 23 August 2023 Zimbabwe decides, vanhu vari kuvhota vachiri kuenderera mberi vachivhota. Takatarisa kuti kuvhurwa kwemapolling stations kwaitika mangwanani kuchiri kuenderera mberi, vanhu vachivhota kunosvika nguva dzavanga vavhura ndonguva dzichavharwa nadzo ma-polling stations iwayo. Tisilokhe siqhubekela ke phambili silethulela muri yeZimbabwe ukuthi kuhamba njani njalo kuhamba njani kathesi endaweni ke ezichiyeneyo. Bakhona abasimeleyo khona ngale ngasendaweni ezichiyeneyo besiphakulela okuchiyeneyo. Vatori venavo veZBC variko kunze uko tichitarisa kuti kubva mangwanani taita magesti akasiyana-siyana pano vachitsanangura nyaya dzakasiyana. ZEC yanga iri pano, Chief Elections Officer vanga vari pano, vaUtlwile Selaigwana vachitsanangura zvakatarisana nemutemo kuti mutemo unoti kudini nekuti zvinofamba sei kana vanhu vari kuma-polling stations. Vatsanangura chinhu chikuru, vatsanangura nyaya yekuti izvoni vanhu ngavave vanoita moyo murefu nekuti mutemo wenyika yeZimbabwe unotaura iwo kuti ma-elections emutungamiri wenyika kana achinge aitwa ma-results anobuda within 5 days, kwete kuti mapedza kuvhota izvezvi maakutanga kuita mirizvo.
And yes, indeed, that is right, that we also have to have some patience as we go through this process. You do know that I know some people are not used to queuing for things, but everyone's turn and everyone's right to vote will be rightfully represented. And I should say for myself that I managed to go through this process in the morning, and my experience went through very well as many others. I believe that my experience is similar to everyone else's, where the polling officers managed to explain to me what was going on, the verification process, where I had to put in my ballot box, and the privacy was absolutely perfect for me. And I've gone through this process. I'm not a first-time voter, but a lot of first-time voters, from the updates we've got from various correspondents across the country, have expressed how easy and smooth flowing it was. And even some polling stations have almost finished serving all their voters. But remember, we did promise you, and as we have done since the morning, we are crossing over to various correspondents from our news team. And please pay attention to what they're saying, because we are planted all over the country and we'll give you a real feel in real time of what exactly is going on. And just in a moment, we're going to be crossing over to Patience Nyagato, who is in Magun constituency, and she gives us a report on what's going on in Magun.
Good day to you. We have traveled from Kariba, Burungu, and we are now in Magun constituency. It seems like there were early voters. As of 3 o'clock, most of the polling stations have no queues, and there are only at least 1 or 2 people who are still voting. And we managed to speak to a number of presiding officers in these constituencies.
And rightfully, as he said, in some polling stations where the populations are not as busy as certain places, not as dense as other places, they've almost finished with their voting process. And we get to hear from the presiding officer in Magun constituency.
All right, kuvanza tatanga makuseni pakipa ngapa ine 135. Saka as of 3 o'clock vanhu vangavhota vanguva 372. Hatina kumbosangana zvedu nema-challenges akawanda. Asi taitawo mavhoters vataita 10 away because havasi kuappear on voters room. Tingoti ndezviri zviro zvazvo kufamba zvazvo zvakanaka. Hatina ma-challenges so far.
And those are the words from the presiding officer who spoke to Patience Nyagato in Magun constituency. Lucy, zvirikuratidza kuti kune mamwe polling station vanhu vakwanisa kukurumidza kupedzerwa azvifanani kwese kune kumwe kune vanhu vakawanda vamwe vashoma nokudaro ava vatokwanisa kupedza, and it seems like everything moved on quite smoothly.
Zvinongoda kuti iwewe uri muqueue pari zvino ongoita patience dzako nokuti nguva yako inosvika, isikati sako siyafika mbokupedhe mpuli yeZimbabwe ziri kuchitika kumasena asiyene-siyene, vamwe vari kuenda ikavotu milongo yavo iri kuenda ovotu vari kunjira kavari kuvhota zvonse kaziri kuenda ikavotu kavari kumasena andene gabi gatwinkira kunembo gatotaluvipe ikuti turi kumwetera kuzwa kumasena asiyene-siyene gatwamba ikuti Zimbabwe decides mbuzuva ibwasunukavi awo ivantu nivari kuya kukuvhota kavasala avo ivatazova iminine mukati ikachindi ichivola mulimbi imyaka imisanu ivola pari zvino regai timbonzwa Monica Chanda ari ku Harare East timbonzwa kuti kwakamira sei kwauri ikoko Monica.
We are live at Hopley Clinic, which falls under Harare South constituency, where voting is underway. Zimbabweans are casting their vote to elect president, members of the National Assembly, as well as councillors for local authority. We spoke to the presiding officer, Madam Kwata Richau, to give us an overview of the voting at Hopley Clinic and some of the issues that people are given were in terms of those voters who were turned away. And one of the major reasons why they were turned away is because of not appearing on the voters' roll. Some of them did not bring in their identification cards, and then there were those who did bring in expired passports. There were, of course, those who needed assistance, like the elderly, those who are visually impaired, as well as some who are amputees, not to mention those who have other health underlying.
Waita basa Monica tinovimba kuti muri kuzvinzwira zviri kuitika kunzvimbo dzakasiyana-siyana. Jeff, iwewe watobva kunovhota. Inini I'm looking forward kuti ndichibva pano I'm going to cast my vote. Ungandiudza here kuti what was your experience iwewe?
All right, so my experience was very simple. My polling station, I had identified the polling station where I was registered. And upon standing in the queue, lucky enough for me, I'm used to waking up very early in the morning. I was one of the first in line. And as we got into the polling station, very safe environment, and they abided by all the rules and the laws pertaining to the voting process. And very organized they were at Kwadza 7 Primary School. People were arranged into different class blocks according to alphabetical order. So you'll find that your surname starts with an N. That was the N's were there, the MUs were there, the B's. So it made the process much easier. So if your surname is, let's say, B-A-Z, you'll go to B-A-Z. It was a short queue. You'll show your identification documents. You'll pick your number from the list that's there so that they find your name a lot faster. As soon as you're done with that, the election officials will explain to you how the process goes. You get your ballot papers and they tell you exactly where to put them. Once you've got your finger painted, then you get into the ballot box. You vote in absolute privacy, absolute secrecy. You slot in your ballot papers and you're done. I didn't exactly time myself, Lucy, but I believe it took me about 5 to 6 minutes and I was done.
Wow. Mbomboga vimpuli Zimbabwe muri kulimvida muri kungozvinzwira zvenyu kuti aiwa zviri kufamba zvakanaka tichiri kungoenderera mberi zvedu pari zvino wotike sige seqele ngale ngase Montrose Studios angikabe lichona njani Montrose sizwe ukuthi kuhamba njani khona ngapho.
Arikolebwa ngamanda siyabonga kakhulu lose ingosolo rikokandira phanda ngambekanyamshumo yashu ya namusi richikodiba uri namusi ndi ḓuvha la khetho polling day apo tshitshavha tsha Zimbabwe tshikokandira phanda nga uyo vota vhathu vha tshi khou nanga vhaholisi vhane vha ṱoḓa rikodiba uri namusi vhathu vha khou votela murangaphanḓa vha kona u votela bena vhaimeleli vha khoroguṱe khathihi na makhansila ri tshi khou ḓivha uri izwi zwi khou itiwa hu tshi khou tevhelwa milayo ya shango shango iri malugana na u fariwa ha dzikhetho dza shangoni lino. Ri khou ḓivha uri ikhetho idzi ndi khetho dzi no khou fariwa u tshi tevhelwa uri khetho dzo fhelelaho u fariwa dzo vha dzi hone nga ṅwaha wa 2018. Zwa zwino ṅwaha wa 2023 ri khou kandela phanḓa vhathu vha tshi khou ya nanga vhaholisei vhane vha ṱoḓa uri vha vhe vhaholisei vha no ḓo vha thusa uri shango ḽi kone u bvela phanḓa zwavhuḓi. Ri khou ḓivha uri kha khetho idzi hu khou dzhena vhoṱhe vho no vha na miṅwaha yo teaho uri vha kone u dzhena kha khetho hedzi. Ri tshi khou ḓivha uri shangoni ḽino ḽa Zimbabwe hu na bulege dzo fhambanaho ma polling stations afho vhathu vhane a ṱuwa hone vha tshi khou yo nanga vhaholisei vhane vha ṱoḓa. Ndi ngazwo zwa zwino ro vhona hu zwa vhuṱhogwa hu zwa ndeme uri ri kone u vhidza vhaṅwe vhaholisei vha shango ḽino uri na vhone vha kone uri ṱalutshedza vha tshi khou ri vhudza uri zwa namusi zwi khou tshimbila hani. Zwa zwino ndi ḓo vhidza vho Misheki Mbedzi vha no khou vha muṅwe wa vhaholisei vha shangoni ḽino vha no khou ḓivha nga maanḓa zwi re malugana na u fariwa milayo ya zwa u fariwa dzikhetho shangoni ḽino. Ndi khou vha ṱanganedza kha mbekanyamushumo ya namusi Vho Mbedzi.
Hai ndi ḓuvha ḽavhuḓi ḽa uri vhathu vha Zimbabwe vho fhiwa nḓila ya uri vha ḓikhethele muthu vha na mufuna uri a vha vhuse. Zwino ri tshi ri Zimbabwe ngauri ndi shango ḽi no fha vhathu malugelo avho uri hai muna khetha no wafuna kana wa khetha vha tshiṱaudze kana wa khetha vhafhio zwi kha iwe. Ende sa vhunga ndo wa vhuya nda amba fhaḽa uri ra ri khou tshimbila ra ri khou vhona na vhathu vha no bva kha maṅwe mashango vho ambara zwivhagi zwavho vhatshena na vharema vho ḓa u vhona uri vhathu vha Zimbabwe ni vota hani. A thongo vhuya nda vhona vhathu vha tshi semana, a thongo vhona face, a thongo vhona muthu o kwataho a tshi lila. Na nga ngomu u tshi dzhena u khou wana vhasidzana na vhatukana vha hone vha tshi u ṱanganedza vha tshi u takalela vha tshi vhudza uri u ite zwa u rali u ite zwa u rali vha ri zwa u rali zwi dzumba uri songo vhonwa nga muthu.
Ri khou pfa uri ni khou ṱanzilela uri no vhona vhaholisei vha no khou bva kha maṅwe mashango. Izwo zwi khou sumba uri shango iḽi ḽo ima hani kana ri tshi khou sedza mafhungo a re malugana na zwa mulalo.
Mulalo nṋe ndo u vhona nga maanḓa nga ene election nango hu sathu ḓa ḓuvha ḽa nasi nda ndi khou tshimbila dzibulegeni nnzhi. A thongo vhuya nda wana kana bhawani vhathu vha tshi shelana nga halwa vhaṅwe vha tshi dia na dzi face kana muṅwe vha tshi ḓi ambarela vho t-shirt yawe muṅwe amba zwine a nyaga a tshi amba uri ha mugede nṋe ndi khou mufuna muṅwe a ri na mugede a ti mufuni vhathu vha tshi sea. A thongo vhuya nda vhona vhathu vha no dinaletshelana uri i ndavha iwe u tshi ri mugede nṋe ndi khou mufuna. A thongo zwi vhona kana na bishana a ri dzivha kha dziṅwe bulege mara nṋe nga kuvhonelo kwanga holu khetho lwa lu free vhani lwo takalela nga vhathu vha tshi khetha vhathu vho no nyaga uri vha vha vhuse.
Ri khou pfa uri ni khou amba uri khetho lwa ṋaṅwaha vhathu vho vha vha tshi khou ḓi pfa vho vhofholowa vha tshi khou kona uri vha nange vhaholisei vhane vha ṱoḓa. Ri tshi khou kandela phanḓa ini sa muṅwe wa vhahulwane vha shango ḽino sa vhunga ri tshi khou ḓivha uri shango ḽino ḽo thoma u fara khetho nga miṅwaha ya 1980. Ni nga ri ṱanzilela uri kana ni tshi khou fhambanisa ni tshi khou vhona uri ni tshi fanekanisa zwivhili izwi zwa zwino ho ima hani.
Zwa zwino ri vho tou vhona nga vhathu vha Zimbabwe vho no tou vha vhathu vho no ḓowela na u ṱhomphana uri a ri tsha dielana uri wa iyo fhiyo party kana ri vho tou ita nga u funana na nga u pfesesana a hu tshena no vhangisa muṅwe. Hai ri a rengelana na ngoma bia na ngoma Coca-Cola muṅwe a tshi ḓifunela yawe vho party muṅwe a ḓifunela kansela wawe muṅwe a ḓifunela u na funa.
Ri khou ḓivha uri ikhetho dza namusi vhathu vha khou nanga be murangaphanḓa vha kona u nanga habe na vhaimeleli vha khurogute vha phalamennde khathihi na makhansila. Ni khou ri mini kha avho vha no ḓo pfhi vhone vho baleliwa u nangiwa kha vhoṱhe avho vha no khou ṱaṱisa kha khetho hedzi.
Vhaḽa vha no ḓo vha vho baleliwa kha vha ḓe phathini ngauri Zimbabwe ndi nthihi ya vhathu vhathihi. I ḓani ri takale uri vhana a ri tshi shumani ri farane zwanḓa uri ha munna wo voteliwa na nevo ndi ḓo zama next time uri ndi itani ndi wine. Ngauri u wina zwi amba uri vhathu na vhaḽa vho winaho kha vha dzhie vhathu vhoṱhe vha shumele ri shumele tshithu tshithihi ngauri a huna tshithu tshi siho fhano shangoni ḽino. Ndi mini tshino nga ri ngauri nṋe ndo luza tina nda ḓo wana kana una bulasi una bulasi kana una tshitoro na tshitoro. So ri khou ri vhana a ri faraneni ri vhe vhathu vhathihi ri rabelele tshithu tshithihi ri rabelele shango ḽo tshi ḽiye phanḓa. Mudzimu a dzhie ni vhathu ni vha sa funani a ri funaneni vhathu vha Zimbabwe. Ṱhaṅwe heḽi shango ra ri sa funani ra ri nga si ḽi dzhie makhuwani.
ri tshi kandela phanḓa ri khou pfa ni khou amba nga mafhungo a re malugana na u funana na zwiṅwe zwo fhambanaho uri hu vhe na mulalo shangoni afho nga tshifhinga ni tshi khou mona kha bulege dzo fhambanaho ri khou pfa uri no swika bulegeni dzi no fana na vho Cowdry Park vho Masocha ni khou amba uri no vhona zwinzhi zwi tshi khou italea mabambiri aḽa a u votela kana uri bulege dza u votela dzo vuliwa nga tshifhingaḓe afho he na swika hone ini
nṋe ha nda tou swika hone u vula ndo vula nga 7 o'clock mara maphepha vha u sina mara u tou vula u dzhena nga 7 ndo wana vho no vula na vhaṅwe vhathu soko ḓa henefho ri tshi ḓi zwiwelana vhaṅwe ri wa ri tshi vho soko zuwa fhedzi uri ro imela uri ri vhe vha thoma vhana ngauri muthu wo tou vha tshi ngori a thoma isiwa inki
ri khou apfa nga ngoho uri ndi mafhungo maḓifha ngauri ni khou ṱanzilela vhukuma zwoṱhe zwe nda vhona zwi tshi khou italea vhukati henefho no no dzhena vhaḽa vha no khou thusa vhathu vha no khou sumbedza vhathu uri afha wo no dzhia phepha ḽau bambiri ḽa u votela ḽiḽa u khou tshimbila wari vha khou fara hani vhathu
u thoma mpholisani nṋe ndo ndi tshi swika sa muthu mulwane nda nyaga dzina langa nda tou vhona ḽo tou ḓibvela Misheki Mbedzi nda pfhi ndi muthu mulwane ana 70 years ni khou votela fhaḽa kha B nda livha kha B ndi swika kha B nda dzhena nda wana musidzana a ri dzhena ndi tshi ṱupha nda swika fhaḽa nda tshekhewa nda wana Misheki Mbedzi vhoṱhe vha sokou ṱanganedza vho takala u nga ri havhaḽa vhathu vho tou isiwa tshikoloni a ridzi
hai nga ngoho Roma pfa maipfi a ra ḓivhadziwa nga muhulisei vho Misheki Mbedzi vhone vho ṱanzilela zwinzhi zwino khou italea nga ḓuvha ḽa ṋamusi ri tshi khou ḓivha uri ḓuvha ḽa ṋamusi ndi ḓuvha ḽa khetho polling day afho vhathu vha no khou kandela phanḓa nga uyo nanga vhaholisei vha shango ḽino ri khou ḓivha uri vhathu vha khou nanga vharangaphanḓa vha tshi nanga be na vhaimeleli vha Khuroguṱe vha tshi khou nanga be na makhansila ri khou ri izwi ndi zwone zwithu zwino khou itiwa shangoni ḽino u itela uri vhathu vha kone u tevhedzela milayo ya shango ire malugana na zwa u fariwa ha dzikhetho zwa zwino vha hashu ri khou kandela phanḓa nga mbekanyamushumo ya ṋamusi ri tshi khou ya henengei bulegeni ya Wange afho ri no khou amba hone na muhulisei vha no khou vha vhone murangaphanḓa vha ḽihoro ḽa unza vho Elizabeth Valerio vhone vha no khou ri ḓivhadza zwinzhi vha henengei kha ḽa Wange.
Smoothly, actually. I think everyone seemed very organized at my polling station. I was getting concerned because I had heard a lot of reports from across the country where some of the polling stations don't seem to be prepared and they're still missing ballots for local authorities. So I was worried that perhaps my home polling station might have similar issues, but it was very smooth. And I just would have hoped to see more people lining up to vote. It's an important day for Zimbabwe to be able to choose the leaders that will be representing them for the next 5 years. And so we are, optimistic that people are going to be able to successfully participate in this election and submit their votes. I would want to also just say that as I looked at the ballot paper, my own photo on the ballot paper was unrecognizable. I almost couldn't recognize myself. So I'm very disappointed to see the quality of other candidates, particularly candidates that are currently in government, being so perfectly clear and my photo is completely smeared. And
ngempela muli eZimbabwe isiqhubela phambili ngohlelo lwethu lanamhlanje sisazi phela ukuthi uZulu uqhubela phambili ngokuvota njalo siyabonga kakhulu kumama uElizabeth Valerio yena osewange sisazi phela ukuthi nguye umkhokheli umongameli wenhlanganiso yeUZA siqhubela phambili ngohlelo lwethu okwamanje silibisela ema studios ePocket City lapho siqhubela phambili ngohlelo lwethu.
Arolivu wanga manda vuphilo ndlovu ku Montreal Studios nkhuko ke atkwalumba kaphathi akuthwethela ima updates twabona ukuthi ibasololi ibali kuyanda ikujizga mukati ikachuno chabusololi bavota Jeff tiri kuona kuti vari kukwikwidza zvikuru sei takatarisa pachigaro chemutungamiri wenyika vazhinji vavo tatu vaona kuti vavota.
Yes, indeed. We have seen presidential candidates. I have seen at least 3, including the UZA presidential candidate Elizabeth Valerio, Triple C presidential candidate Nelson Chamisa, and the ZANU-PF presidential candidate Dr. E.D. Mnangagwa. And they all cast their votes and gave their comments and their sentiments. I think it's also very important that presidential candidates and candidates themselves go to the polling stations, they are registered voters. They get a real feel of what the rest of us are going through. And like we've just heard from Elizabeth Valeria, that sometimes, during elections, people tend to get a lot of rumors and reports from various sources, but the real feel thing is actually a lot different. That's why we're encouraging you to follow us on our social media pages. That is ZBC News Online. Hashtag Zimbabwe Decides 2023. If you hear from us, it is accurate, it is verified, and we have people right on the ground, as we have shown throughout the day.
Yes, as we say, ZBC News, the real African voice. Mbombo bombo tuliwamba ikuti zitu mwetera swebo amobe ega muzisyo mankambo nzizyo zitanoli nzizyo chose tiri kutarisa sikhangela ukuthi abantu abaregister ukuvota eZimbabwe bafika bona 6.5 million registered voters, and kula ma polling station afika wona 12,340 abantu lapho abamele bevotele khona. Sikhangelele ukuthi kuzaba lempumela ezihambelana lalokho elikuhambeleyo, njalo sikhangele ukuthi inhlelo zonke zihamba kakuhle, njalo silokhe siliphathela tichingoti tichikuzivisayi zvese zviri kuitika, nekuti vatori venavo veZBC Jeff vakadyarwa nzvimbo dzese ma-polling station ese vari kuenda vachinosvika ikoko.
And you know what, chimwe chiri kundinakidza ndechekuti nhasi zuva resarudzo, mumwe nomumwe ari kunoita sarudzo yake, asi sarudzo inotanga nhasi. You got to choose the polling station where you found it most comfortable for you to be able to vote, and some were also allowed to make adjustments along the process, and that is what democracy is all about. And we do encourage you to exercise your right to go and vote. And I know several people who are phoning from the diaspora, what is going on, what is happening. All you can simply do is tell them to go onto the ZBC social media platforms, the ZBC News Online. They'll get a real feel of exactly what is going on. I think the worst thing that we can have during any process, a national process, even a private process, is to have misinformation. And we're very happy to be linking in just a moment with Fungai Jachi, who is in Kuadzana constituency, where Fungai Jachi is giving us a real feel of exactly what is going on in Kuadzana constituency, and we'll be connecting in just a moment. But please, just to give you, all right, Fungai Jachi is now on the phone. Hello, Fungai, and hello, Fungai. We'll be connecting with Fungai in just a moment. But Lucy. Lucy, like we were saying, we are connecting with Fungai Jachi. Good afternoon, Fungai, and please give us an update of what exactly is going on in Kuadzana. Hey, hello, Fungai. We're just clearing up the line to be in touch with Fungai. And like I did say, Fungai Jachi is in Kuadzana constituency, that is Harare West. We'll try to get hold of her again, but like we were saying, Lucy, the process is very simple. Make sure you've got your identity documentation.
Exactly.
And it's a smooth flowing process.
Ndizvo zvadanga tichida kuti tirambe chingovakurudzira vari kudzimba kuti kana usati waenda kunovhota pari zvino ka takura chitupa chako, identification, kana iri passport, make sure kuti passport iri valid. Make sure kana uine chitupa chebepa chiya make sure kuti chine mufananidzo wako, kuitira kuti zvisakunetsa paunosvika onzi aiwa mauya musina chitupa. Zvinhu zviri kufamba zvakanaka kana wakatakura zvinhu zvako zvese zvinodiwa kuenda kunovhota, zvese zviri kufamba zvakanaka, konke kuhamba kakuhle. Lingakohla ukutwala ke ama identification enu asebenzayo, isitupa kumbe passport yako leli lizwe esebenzayo. Nxa kuyisitupa sephepha obakwazi ukuthi simele sibe lo mfanekiso wakho ukhona phana ke esithupeni sakho ukwenzela ukuthi kuhambele kuhle kalula nje.
And there are certain polling stations that have larger numbers than others, and you might be concerned if you're still in the queue and 7 o'clock strikes. There is a provision for you while you're still in the queue to have the access to exercise your right to vote. So do not despair. But like with all things, please try to be early. And like we've been saying, I know we have different analysts that have come through. We have some people from the churches, analysts from our churches. We had political political analysts, legal analysts who are also coming through. And we also got to speak to the ZEC chief election officer, and he gave us the legal requirements of what exactly is happening. The election update takes a short break. We'll be back right after this. Remember, it is hashtag Zimbabwe Decides 2023.
"2023, Zimbabwe Decides."
We asked the children, how many of you brushed this morning? And this little boy, his hand didn't go up. And I said, well, why didn't you brush this morning? He said, my brother was using the toothbrush. If I'd waited for him, I would have been late for school. I'm sorry, I get a bit emotional when it comes to that. To be able to change a child's life, to be able to bring back that confidence about their smile, for me, is phenomenal.
It's the Premier League, all on DSTV. All the goals, clashes, and moments. All of Rashford, Salah, and Saka.
This start is getting better and better and better.
All in HD.
Just makes no sense.
Available on all these bouquets to choose from. To watch on all these devices. Stay connected for all the action. It's the Premier League, all on DSTV.
What happened to snacking? Delicious is being denied. Munching has become mindless. To that we say, not on our watch. Messy munches, play dirty. Busy fighters, take a moment and intensify. Because when snacking is under attack, we'll be there to fight back. Snack in the name of play.
We asked the children, how many of you brushed this morning? And this little boy, his hand didn't go up. And I said, well, why didn't you brush this morning? He said, my brother was using the toothbrush. If I'd waited for him, I would have been late for school. I'm sorry, I get a bit emotional when it comes to that. To be able to change a child's life, to be able to bring back that confidence about their smile, for me, is phenomenal.
It's the election season. ZBC brings you campaign news, programming as they happen on our digital platforms. Our 6 radio stations, including Radio Zimbabwe, Huluyadzo, with a listenership of more than 5 million people, as well as ZBC TV. Get the breaking news, current affairs, discussions, and expert analysis. Judge for yourself the best likely legislator from the constituency in Daba and get to meet your aspiring presidents on the candidate, while the election regulator, ZEC, gives you timely updates on the ballot. Be sure not to miss out on the live broadcast of the polling day, election results, and inauguration. ZBC, bringing you the 2023 election to your doorstep. One people, one nation, one channel of choice. ZBC News, the real African voice. 2023, Zimbabwe decides. 2023. Zimbabwe decides.
Welcome back to the election update. And if you're just joining us, we are touching down to several parts of the country, giving you a real feel and live updates of what's going on the ground. We're about to go to Mashonal in the east, in Marondera, where we are getting in touch with Wellington Makonese. Good afternoon, Wellington. How are you doing?
I'm good. Good afternoon, and good afternoon, viewers.
Well, Wellington, you're the man on the ground. Can you give us an update of the electoral process and what is going on in Marondera at the moment?
Thank you very much. Yes, at this present moment, I am at Nyagui Primary School, that is Ward 1 of Mashonaland East and Marondera East constituency. A constituency that has got 3 candidates vying for the post. And what I've just witnessed in this area is that people come as early as 5 a.m. to await their moment to cast a vote. And by 7 a.m. they had opened. And what is quite interesting now is that at the present moment it seems like it has dried up, and electoral officials are now waiting for the moment, maybe for 1 or 2 people to come, or else they will be closing at 7 without attending to anyone. Seems like all of the people have managed to cast their votes, and they await a collation. And this is a constituency which is part of 3 that are in Marondera. That is Marondera East, Marondera West, and Central. So earlier on, I was in Goromonzi, where there are also 2 constituencies, and for these constituencies, Goromonzi West, Goromonzi North and South, proceedings went quite well, and people in the rural areas take the issue of time seriously, and by 6 a.m. they were queuing up to cast their votes, and I left some of the areas where there were just a few people coming, making turns to vote. The same as in Murewa, which was our first port of call.
Wellington?
Murewa North. Yes, I can hear you.
Wellington, I know you did mention that some polling stations have managed to cater for what looks like all the prospective voters and the electorate.
Yes, sure.
There are some people that are still in transit that will make their way later to the polling station, probably closer to 7 o'clock. What is the provision for them, and will polling stations be open in Marondera at that, if that does happen?
Okay, the issue is that provisions for 12-hour voting is there. For example, if they start at 7, they will have to finish at 7. If a polling station is opened up at 8, they have to finish at 8. So that is what the electoral officials are saying. So for those that came late, but with the circumstances that polls opened up at 7, I think there will be issues around that. But for those that will be in the queue in between the period before 7, they will be attended to.
And Wellington, I know you have interacted with some of the people in Marondera. How have the first-time voters responded, and what was their feeling and reaction to voting for the first time in a general election?
Well, it seems like it has been a long time coming for some of those voters who were quite thrilled by the fact that proceedings are just as easy as they come, taking maybe at least 3 minutes inside the polling booth to finish off all the stuff, verify their names, and of course being vetted and casting their votes. So they were quite interested in that they are now participating in the democratic processes of the country, which of course started in the 1980s for Zimbabwe. And also looking at the elderly, I managed to speak to one woman who is now in her 80s, and she has been part of the processes since 1980. And what she highlighted to me is that things are advancing by the progression of each and every electoral year. So it's quite an eye-opening experience for both the new and the old.
Thank you so much, Wellington Makonesi in Mashonaland East in Marondera. And Lucy, like Wellington said, it's quite an eye-opener for new voters and those that I would say veteran voters who now have a bit of voting experience. And quite impressive is that some polling stations have already, they look like they're almost done. They managed to serve everyone as quickly as possible, and they're still open all the way until 7 p.m.
And ndizo zvandanga ndichimbotaura kuti chiri kundifadza kuti vana mbuya they are feeling so happy because they've been voting and voting and voting and voting and they have voted again today, so they are very happy. Pane vatamboona vanga vachifamba nengoro kutopinda mungoro kuenda kunovhota, zvinhu zvinofadza. Ma first time voters tiri kunzwa vatori venhavo vedu vari kutaura kuti variko vari kufara zvakare kuti vavhota kekutanga ma general elections anaya. Silokeke siqhubekela phambili muli yeZimbabwe kuyinto ke enhle eveza ukuthi noma ke kukhanya angani ku polling station kakusela abantu, kodwa i polling station kayivali, iyavala ngesikhathi lapho evule ngaso. Nxa ivule ngo7 izavala njalo ngo7, noma kungasela abantu abasemzileni bazamelela ke isikhathi sokuyavala. Sibonge ke uWellington Makonesi lapho asiphathele khona lezi ndaba. Kwamanje wothi ke siqhubekele phambili seqele njalo ngase Montrose Studios ukhona njalo ubuphilo khona ngale ukuthi asethulele okunye okwenzakala ngakhona ngale. Buphilo Ndlovu ngabutshona njalo khona ngapho ngase Montrose. Udora Ncube ngixolele uDora
kana Dora manje
ukhona uDora akasiphathele ke okwenzakala ngase Montrose.
Thank you so much, Lucy. It's actually Dora now. So thank you so much for taking us on there with Jeff. We are continuing to give you updates as we had promised, and we've had different reporters in different polling stations reporting, and we've heard that generally the election has been quite peaceful. And remember, this is the 9th election in Zimbabwe since 1980, and we have 12,374 polling stations that are open today, and people are out there voting and practicing their constitutional right as Zimbabwe decides for their presidential, National Assembly and local authority candidates. And well, for now, I have in the studio Pastor Blessing Maposa, who is also here just to tell us a bit more on where the church stands as far as the elections are concerned. Pastor Blessing, welcome to the studio.
Thank you for having me, Dora.
So for a start, tell us, where does the church stand during a time like this?
The church is standing for peace. We are advocating for peace within our borders. We are advocating for tolerance. Let's be tolerant throughout this electioneering period.
And do you as leaders encourage your congregants to participate in elections?
Absolutely. It is a citizen right. It's their democratic right enshrined in our constitution for our congregants and brethren to vote. So we actually encourage them to go out there and vote. And by the way, we don't even decide who to vote for. They have the right to choose, the freedom to choose the candidates that they want to have them representing them.
And as a church leader, what can you say about political tolerance in the country and how to avoid political toxicity?
At the end of the day, Dora, we are Zimbabweans. Let's promote brand Zimbabwe. Elections come and go, but we remain neighbors, we remain congregants, we remain mates and fellow Zimbabweans. Let's not allow the election season and frenzy to divide us, to make us enemies. A house divided against itself cannot stand. So we are advocating for unity, unity, unity. Let's remain united and let's be peaceful as Zimbabweans.
Okay, so you did mention that you encourage your congregants to participate in some of these national issues. Do you feel you as church leaders or as a church are also involved or are also given enough participation in national issues?
Indeed, we are given enough participation as enshrined in our constitution. There is freedom of association, there is freedom of assembly, you know, even freedom, religious freedom. So we do encourage our congregants to participate, though the response has been rather poor because we have the politics to be for the secular world, like as if it's unchristian or it's ungodly, which is not true, because even from the Bible we have seen politicians in the mold of the Daniels, the Moseses. They were statesmen, they were politicians. So we do encourage, actually, if we have politicians who are Christians, who are God-fearing, the better, because we need God-fearing leaders.
Okay, so what is your wish as a church leader, say, for the people that are coming in for the next 5 years as the church?
To the parliamentarians, our councillors, as well as the head of state, we want people who are God-fearing, like I've said. God-fearing people will lead our nation in the right path. In other words, zero tolerance on violence, discrimination, gender-based violence, corruption, and all the social ills, substance abuse amongst our youths, and so forth and so on. So we really need God-fearing leaders who will take Zimbabwe forward in the next 5 years.
Then coming down to this particular election on women participation, we realize that there is a decrease in females who participated in this year's election. And I believe you also as a church are preaching against patriarchy and of all sorts. What can you say about that?
Dora, in the Word of God, you have seen some women participating. Jesus, for example, in Luke chapter 8, most of the partners were ladies, women who stood with Jesus in ministry. I love a scripture in Judges chapter 5. There is a woman who stood out. Her name is Deborah. It was a time of male dominance where most of the judges at that time were male. The space was male dominated. But there's a verse there that says, until I, Deborah, arose, a mother in Israel. So I'm calling for women in Zimbabwe to arise politically. Their voice has got to be heard. So we encourage our women, obviously, to study, get educated, get these degrees, and also invade the political space and dominate it.
Thank you so much, Pastor, for coming here and encouraging us. I'm sure all the women out there are encouraged to rise up and take up positions in the political space. And for now, we will cross over to Beitbridge, where Ifeli Mdau is on standby to give us an update on what is happening that side. Ifeli, good afternoon.
Ndima siara vhuḓi dzina ndi Ifeli Mdau vha ḓo zwi uri matshiloni rari roṱhe ndi tshiṱirikini tsha Beitbridge afho nda ri khou vhafha mivhigo nga zwa dzikhetho nga ḓuvha ḽa ṋamusi. Vha ḓo zwi uri vhathu vha Zimbabwe vha kanda phanḓa nga u khetha murangaphanḓa wa shango, nga u khetha vhaimeleli vha phalamenndeni, nga u khetha makhanselara. Zwa zwino ndo no pfuka mukano wa tshiṱiriki tsha Beitbridge, ndo no vha kha tshiṱiriki tsha Gwanda Tshiṱaudze afho nda dalela hone kha polling station ya Collenborn Primary School. Nda swika nda wana vhone vhathu vha tshi khou kandela phanḓa nga u khetha. Nda pfuka nda dzhena ḓoroboni ya Gwanda afho nda wana hone vhathu vha tshi khou kandela phanḓa nga khetho. Nṋe na vhone ri ḓo wana ndi navho u bva zwino u vho ya fara awara ya vhusumbe madekwana ndi tshi khou vhafha mivhigo yoṱhe i no khou tea nga zwa dzikhetho vha vhe na masiari avhuḓi. Nda
So much, Ifeli. That's it there from Beitbridge. The elections are going on fairly peacefully all over the country, as you have heard as well there at Beitbridge. And for now, we will be taking you back again to Pocketsville Studios for more updates.
Tkalumba kapati Dora Ncube ku Montrose nkhukoki akathuinkhira ikunembo kathuvola okuno kuma studios e Pockets Hill katulangene akuti zyonse zili kuyenda kapotho zvese zviri kufamba zvakanaka. Jeff atiri kupakura ma-updates ezviri kuitika musarudzo nzvimbo dzakasiyana-siyana.
Munyaya yesarudzo iyi tiri kuona kuti pari zvino mukatarisa nguva padziri pachiine nguva yekuti iwe newe uwano nguva yekuti usvike papolling station iri padhuze newe yawakarejista kuti kunovhota. Sezvatadzwa kune vakawanda, the process is very simple, the process is very easy, especially ana ambuya vedu, the 80-year-olds, the 60-year-olds, they have not complained about the font not being big enough. They've had voter assistance, and the process was very, very quick for them. Some of our correspondents are saying that it took as quickly as 3 minutes. In some polling station, I had a 5-minute experience, and that's exactly what's going on as Zimbabwe decides.
Yes, mpuli Zimbabwe etu mulumbe ikapati ikuti muli kujatana askepo kabi ikatulimpawano ZBC News, the real African voice. Katukamba kuti 2023 Zimbabwe decides ikwalino katuyamba ikuti amwinkile kunemba kuti kotana inkakuyo vota puchi chili chindi ikuyosika muchindi awo ni kulangilidwe ikujalwa muchindi cha 7 igolezga kakuendelana akuti i-polling station yako ya jula achindinzi.
All right, thank you so much, Lucy. We'll be winding up this election update. Remember to follow us on ZBC News Online on all of our social media pages, especially our Twitter, which you now call x.com. Coming up next is Naween Daba, and we'll keep you informed throughout this entire process. We'll be back at 7 p.m. right after this.
"2023 Zimbabwe decides."